Hey everybody, this is S. Anthony Thomas, the S. Anthony Thomas Show. How are you doing? How are you doing? No long preamble or anything like that. We're just going to kind of jump right into today's business. And many times we don't even realize how much what's going on in a person's life is different from the outside. What we see on the outside is nothing like what's actually going on the inside. And I'll explain what I'm talking about. Now, there's people out there, there's a lot of you listening to this right now, and a lot of you, in many cases, will send me messages or ask questions. And sometimes I'll just answer the question, and a lot of times I don't talk about it on the air. But I'm going to do it this time, because a lot of you have asked me over the course of these years, hey man, you haven't done stand-up in a while, man. How come you haven't done stand-up, man? And there's plenty of reasons. One of the main reasons why I had some sick relatives I wanted to help out, and I kind of felt the responsibility to them. And some of them was some injury deals I had to deal with on my own. I've had a bad back since a car accident I was in a long time ago. And I never really gave it an opportunity to heal completely. And I've had these issues. And it's really weird. I kind of do a physical act. I'm a physical performer. And quite frankly, if I went on stage and I wasn't intact the way I needed to be intact, I would not be doing the show that I wanted to do. Essentially I'd be going on stage and people would be getting 45% of what I was capable of. And I'm not one of those people that feels that feels that I'm going to give somebody something that's less than what I'm capable of. Like if I did this podcast and I could only do 45% of what I was capable of, you would never hear the episode, because I've had to erase a couple of episodes because maybe my voice was messed up or maybe I didn't like the way it sounded, because I'm not going to put anything out there for you to listen to, whether it's me standing on stage in front of you or whether it's this podcast or anything that I'm going to do. If I don't think that it's good enough, I'm just not going to do it. If I have to go and do it again, if I have to redo it, if I have to say, you know what, I'm going to have to hold off until I can do it right, I'm going to do that, because I don't want to disrespect anybody that's listening to me. And I don't want to disrespect anybody that's actually coming to see me. That's why, because I haven't have an opportunity to go back to recording with my normal equipment, I'm actually doing this on my phone again because of some other things that are personal that I have to deal with right now. And I'm not able to, sit down and really record the podcast with my original equipment. But I want to keep my schedule together. And hopefully the content, you seem to like the content, and I appreciate that. You've been giving me a lot of love, and I appreciate that. I just want to be serious there for a moment. But sometimes from the outside, we really don't know exactly what's going on with people. Like if you saw me walking down the street, you would go, hey, that's a healthy guy. There's nothing wrong with him. And you wouldn't be able to know or detect how much pain I was actually in. Why? Because I have a pretty high pain threshold. Now, I don't know if I was naturally born with or anything like that, but just like anything else, human beings are adaptable creatures. And my back had been killing me for such a long period of time that I had gotten used to the pain. It was almost like S. Anthony plus pain. It was just there. And when it originally happens, it's intense and it bothers you when you can't function. But just like anything else, you get used to things. And those little blasts of pain that randomly pop up, or the weakness or the intense pain that happens, you're just used to it because it's there all the time. So you wouldn't be able to tell from the outside looking in. You would look at me and you go, what do you mean he can't do? What's he talking about? He seems to be doing fine. No, I would not be doing fine. I know what my stand-up show is supposed to look like and sound like. And the last thing you want me to be doing is on stage trying to do an hour of stand-up and 14 minutes and going, this show's over. Or you say, I'm going to lay on this floor right now and I'm going to continue doing my act. But every once in a while you're going to hear me go, because there's going to be a big blast of pain and anything like that. I'm sure you're going to still be able to enjoy the show, right? Somebody call an ambulance and get me out of here. Nobody wants to see that. So people kept asking me why you haven't done stand-up, and that's one of the main reasons. The funny thing was, there was a lot of people yesterday that really liked some of the newer episodes, and I appreciate that. Thank you. And they were going, man, we really want to see you do stand-up, man. If we like what you do on this thing, man, I bet your stand-up's this, that, and the greatest, and this, and the incredible, and all of that. So I'm driving down the street today, and I was heading towards the gym, to work out and to get myself back together. And hopefully in the next couple of months or so, I'll be able to get back on stage and start writing material and doing my thing. And an old friend of mine who's a really, really good comedian, Joey Callahan, called me up. And he checks in on me every once in a while. We've been friends for, well, good Lord, 30 years, 30 plus years. He said, hey man, when are you going to come back? When are you going to come back? Which is fantastic to hear because I respect what he does on stage. And he has a great stand-up special. So go look up Joey Callahan. You won't be sorry. And it's kind of cool to have someone whose act and whose work I respect that much show me the kind of respect that he's wants me to go back on the stage. I appreciate that. You know, that's a really good friend and a really kind person to do that. And I'm almost ready to go back. And I was talking to him about that actually in the car. I was on the way to the gym. And it was really weird how that happened. It was a big blast of people calling. A big blast of people contacting me and writing me, come on, man, we want to, we like your podcast, we love the podcast, the podcast is great, we want to see you on stage. And then an old friend calls up, someone who's actually a great comic himself, says, hey, man, you got to get back up there, which I appreciate. And I'll be doing that soon. But the funny thing about it is, like I said, from the outside looking in, you would not be able to tell what's going on. And I see it sometimes in other people's lives. From the outside looking in, you never know. Sometimes somebody will do something on the internet and you'll catch them at a weird moment and they're behaving in a way that they normally wouldn't. Maybe they're flipping out in traffic, right? And it's an aberration. You know, how many times do you think, how many times were you really, really close to cursing someone out in traffic, but caught yourself and said, no, I'm not going to flip the bird. I'm not going to honk my horn. I'm not going to scream. I'm not going to do that. I'm just not going to do it. And you avoid that confrontation. You were just this close to flipping out and flipping the bird and escalating something. And just say you're normally a mild-mannered person, but a bunch of horrible things happen to you back to back to back to back. And everybody has a threshold to where they can maintain their cool and their calm. But just like anything else, there's a moment where sometimes it'll be just a little bit too much for you. And you may behave in a way that's not the best and not indicative of how you are under normal circumstances. And say you flip the bird to the guy in the car and he flips the bird to you. Now, under normal circumstances, say you never run across each other in traffic. Say neither one of you almost accidentally cut the other person off. You are both going to the same restaurant. You're both going to the same basketball game. You're both going to the same party. And this incident never happened. And you met and it turned out that you both were really good dudes and you became good friends. That's almost an alternative timeline to what happens when you flip the bird to the person who cut you off. He probably didn't see you. Maybe he did see it. Maybe he's in a hurry. And under normal circumstances, it wouldn't have bothered you. You'd be like, man, that guy must be in a hurry. But not today. Not today. Today, you don't need this crap. Your boss is giving you a hard time. Your spouse is giving you a hard time. Your kids are acting like idiots. This happened, that happened. I can't take it. You flip the bird, he flips the bird, and all of a sudden you're outside of the cars cursing at each other. Neither one of you wants to back down, right? Maybe you have some other people. I wouldn't let him talk to me like that. Yeah, that's right. And all of a sudden they hype you two guys up and you get into a physical altercation. And now you got lawyer fees, maybe you got injuries, maybe something even worse happens. Maybe one of you cracked the other one in the head and somebody falls down and gets injured. And all of a sudden, alternative timeline, instead of you two guys being friends at the party or just not coming into contact with each other, this bad thing happens. And if you looked at the overwhelming amount of time in this person's life, their overwhelming behavior patterns, how they act all the time, it's nothing like that. It's a moment, and a bad moment. Now, what about that's the only time you saw these two guys? What about that's your only interaction with them? You want to judge them based on that, but that's not who they are. Sometimes from the outside looking in, we see the wrong thing. Think about it for a minute. You could have high blood pressure, right? And there was a time when I had high blood pressure, right? And you could be just sitting in a chair calm, thinking about something nice, and you just relax. And the doctor takes your blood pressure, 115/75. In that moment, your blood pressure is fine, but is that how your blood pressure is most of the time? No. They call blood pressure the silent killer for a reason, because a lot of people don't even realize they have high blood pressure. From the outside looking in, at that moment, the doctor took your blood pressure and it was absolutely perfect. 115 over 75, just like the numbers on the box when you buy a blood pressure machine, just like the numbers on the paper. This is perfect blood pressure. And the blood pressure at that moment that he took that blood pressure said it was perfect. But guess what? It's not perfect. Outside looking in. I've seen some videos online where people, in many cases, people will have a disability and it's not readily apparent. Just like I technically don't have a disability. I have a bad back and I'm almost back to normal. I'll take myself out of the equation. But there are people that have disabilities where they legitimately have a placard in their car that says that they have a physical disability. And they do have a physical disability. It may not be readily apparent, but it is a disability. And you see people online all the time. They'll see a person get out of the car and they seem to be fine. And they'll walk up, hey, you're taking up that pace for the physically disabled. You should be ashamed of yourself, Buster. How are you going to take that place? That person really needs that spot, and you're sitting there taking their place. You should be ashamed of yourself. You're disgusting. And they're cursing the person out, not realizing that the person can't stand up for more than 5 minutes. They're okay driving the car, but they can't stand up. And the person walks out around the car, opens up the back of the car, opens up the trunk, pulls out a lightweight wheelchair, and they get in the wheelchair. Oh, you don't need that wheelchair. You were just walking. Get big, get big, get big. And you hear that. And the person goes, I have a congenital disease where this happens, this, that, and the other. It's called da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and I can't da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I don't believe you. I just saw you walking. And then all of a sudden, this person's giving you a hard time. Oh, you're literally getting out of your car and going into the doctor's office. But this person isn't listening to you. All they're seeing is they saw you standing up when you got out of the car, not realizing that you can't stand up for more than 5 minutes. Outside, looking in. How many times have you seen couples that look like they were happy? And you see this all the time. Do you believe that Jenny and Bill are getting a divorce? They seem so happy. I mean, they were just here last night at the party. They were having a great time. They were laughing. They were smiling. They were joking. What happened? I can't believe it. They seem like such a nice couple. Yes, they seemed like a nice couple. And they are nice people individually. But we don't know what happens behind closed doors. We don't know what happens the other hours of the day. We don't know what happens the other days of the weeks of the months of the years. We don't know what they're doing when they're not with us. They could be laughing and joking and she could be going off with the mailman. They could be laughing and joking and he could be running off with the secretary. They could be laughing and joking outside the house, and that's why they're happy, because they're with friends and among friends, and they're not concentrating on each other, because when they're by themselves, the relationship is actually quite toxic. Now, that's one of the things. I've been in those relationships. I've been in relationships, this is when I was younger, because I wouldn't tolerate that crap now, but I've been in relationships with people where she's incredibly sweet to everybody else. But when I'm driving her to her house, I knew there was a certain lady that literally, there was a certain amount of time I could be with her when she was going to be nice. If I exceeded that amount of time in her presence, at some point, there was a part of her that would almost go, wait a minute, I'm happy. This is great. We're both smiling. It's a great evening. Everything's going great. I can't have that crap. Mean statement, mean this, mean that. And there was no reason for it. And I was always surprised when it happened, because I was stupid. Right? I literally figured the formula out. I was like, if I have sex with her, she's nice for 24 hours. Right? Or she's nice, and if I don't see her for a few days afterwards, she's nice the entire time. But the second I come back, the clock starts. 4 hours. 4 hours. I got 4 hours of niceness before she does something mean and ruins the evening. We go out to have a dinner. The dinner takes an hour. Okay, I still got 3 hours left. 3 hours left. Dum, bum, 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 bum. We go to a movie. 2 hours. Bang. That's 3 hours total. I gotta get her back to the house before this last hour is up. I gotta get her back to the house and get out of there and talk to her later, or I gotta get her back to the house and get her clothes off. Because if I get her clothes off, I'm gonna get the whole rest. I'm gonna get a whole day of niceness, and then I could leave and she'll be nice to me on the phone until I see her again. And bam, bam, dun, 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 dun. Okay, we're about. She lives about a half an hour from here. I have plenty of time to get her home. I'll get her back to the house. I'll say, hey, I'll see you later. She goes, why don't you come in for a minute? I'll walk in there for a minute. I grab her by the backside, kiss her, pick her up, take her upstairs, give her that good business, and she'll be nice. It's gonna be. I gotta get her back to the house. Gotta get her clothes off and jump on top of her. Cause if I don't, she's gonna say something to ruin the mood. Ruin the mood. Bum, 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 bum. Oh, it's a half an hour. Oh, wait a minute. Is that smoke? Oh, there's smoke. Oh, there's a car fire. I hope that person's okay. I hope nobody's really seriously hurt. A car fire is a serious thing, not to be mean, but I got to get my car on the other side of this traffic for the car fire, because if we get caught in this traffic, it's going to be bad. Bum, 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 bum. 15 minutes away from my house. Oh, I just got to get off the freeway. This is bum, 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 bum. Traffic jam. Traffic stops, traffic stalls, looky-loos, people getting out of their car. The people in the car are fine. They got out before the car fire, and now everybody's shutting down the road. Oh, there's reporters. Oh, no. The reporter actually stopped their truck in the middle. We're going, can't back out. There's people behind us. They keep back out. Bum, bum, 5 minutes left. Bum, bum, bum. I can't back. Beep, beep. The 4-hour mark. You shouldn't have taken this road in the first place. I told you not to take this road. You know, you're such an idiot. You're such an idiot. Why did you take this road? If you didn't take this road, we could be home right now. I could be at my house. And why'd you turn your car off? You didn't want the air conditioning to be on? You know how hot it is in this car? Okay, and your mother, your sister, and this is what you did wrong, even though you really didn't do anything wrong, but I need to be mean to you for some reason. Argument, means comment, nitpicking, revisionist history, right? And as delicious as she looked, she was so mean in the car, even though she's wearing a sundress and all her chocolatey yumminess is jiggling in all the right places. And under normal circumstances, I'd wanted to give her that good deep business so good she thought it was Christmas. But no. She's walking up the steps, her delicious backside is in my face, and I'm looking at her, and normally I'd be drooling all over myself in anticipation. Okay, that's an old commercial for ketchup. A third of my audience is too young to even understand what the heck that was. But trust me, it's a commercial for ketchup, because back in the day you turn the ketchup bottle over and it would take a long time for the ketchup to come out, so they'd sang a song, anticipation, because it takes a long time for the ketchup to come out. Okay, I've explained it. Back to the story, because I'm picturing her butt in my mind. Give me a minute, I'm going to think about it. Yeah, back to the story. Right? So she walks up the steps, and she realizes, yeah, I was mean to him, but I really want to get it on with him. And I'm like, nah, I'm not interested. Keep in mind, I'm a young man at the time, okay? Even as an old man right now who still can give the good business so good they think it's Christmas, I had turned it down. Now, do you know how when you have a woman that looks that delicious, how mean she has to be when she's basically begging you to take her upstairs and give her that good deep business so good she's thinking it's Christmas, and you decide you don't want to? That's how mean she was. Right? Under normal circumstances, the house could be on fire. I'm like, listen, by the time the fire gets up to your floor, I'm pretty sure it's going to take about an hour so we can get this in, and then we can go out with the firemen when they get here. That's how I was at the time, and even in that state, she was so mean, I said, hell no, no genitals for you, sister. Right? But if you asked the people that we were hanging out with at dinner, if you asked the people that went to the movies with us, if you asked the people that were standing outside when we got the car back from the valet, they would go, "Oh, what a wonderful young couple. They were so nice. I saw the way they looked at each other. We know what they're doing." Yes, fighting in a car in traffic. From the outside looking in, everything looked great. But that was the outside looking in. Now, the reason I said all of that is because we have to be very, very careful. Sometimes we have to make sure that we don't judge people based on a little snippet, a little moment here, a little moment there. That may just be a snapshot. That may just be the beginning of the car ride when everything was still good. That may just be the blood pressure at that moment, which doesn't tell the whole story. So just remember, if you're on the outside looking in, don't think you see the whole picture, okay? Like right now, if somebody was on the outside, they would go, "Hey, his audience loves him. What a smooth voice. What a handsome middle-aged man he is." I'm pretty sure that nobody that's listening to this podcast is going to recommend this podcast to their friends and family. There's no way they're going to give him 5-star ratings on all the podcast players. There's no way they're going to subscribe to his podcast. There's no way that these people, if they're listening on Spotify, that they're going to follow him on Spotify. There's no way they're going to do that. But those people are on the outside looking in. They don't know. I know for a fact you guys will tell other people about this podcast and spread the word. I know you will. I know you're going to write good 5-star reviews on all the podcast players for me. I know you're going to do that. I know if you see me on any of the social medias, including the new threads, I'm on that, by the way. I know you're going to look up my name, S. Anthony Thomas, online and follow me on all social media. And on those social media platforms, retweet, reblog, re-whatever, all my stuff so people will listen to the podcast and grow the audience. I know you're going to do that. They may not know looking from the outside in, but we're on the inside and we know what you're really going to do, right? Much love to you all, my friends. As always, thank you very, very much for coming back to the S. Anthony Thomas Show. I appreciate you. I got much love for all of you, and I will see you again next time. Take care, my brothers and sisters. Take care. Bye. Hey, guys, it's S. Anthony. This is the S. Anthony Thomas Show. You know, let's just get right into it because I'm thinking about something that happened to me before and something that happened to a friend of mine. I was hanging out at a friend of mine's house. And I'm one of those people that leaves way earlier than other people because I love being the guy where they're going, "Oh man, S, you gotta go. Oh man." I want them always talking about how they wish S could stay longer. I love being that guy, right? Because if you're that guy, when you show up, you get the Norm from Cheers treatment. I walk in, "Hey, S is here. Hey, oh, hey, S, what's going on, man? What's going on, S? Yo, hey." I like that. And when I leave, "Oh, come on, man. Oh," I love that crap. Because I don't like to overstay my welcome. I don't like to overuse favors. I don't like to be a pain in the buttocks. Now, I talked to one of my podcasts. I don't know which one it was. Because I have two, but I don't know which one I did it on. But I talked about how there were times when evil will come into your life. You'll see it on the news. You see just a regular group of people just doing regular people things. They're not doing anything weird. They're not in a tough neighborhood driving down the street slowly with dark tinted windows. None of that. They're just going about their business, and then something evil or horrible will happen to them. You see them on 48 Hours and shows of that nature. You see, she was a cheerleader and he was a cheerleader. They just got back from feeding the homeless, and then John Smith showed up, and then something horrible happens to them. And you're like, "Whoa, why he ate them? What the heck?" That type of crap. Now, the odds of that happening are ridiculous. But it did happen because evil came into these innocent people's lives. Oh no. But sometimes pain in the buttocks shows up in people's lives. And there's a bigger chance, a higher chance, it's going to absolutely happen to you, chance of having someone who's a pain in the buttocks show up in your life and do some pain in the buttocks. Things, why? Because they're huge pains in the buttocks. As I said at the beginning of this podcast, I said I don't want to be someplace longer than necessary. I want people to be glad I'm coming, and I want people to be sorry that I'm leaving. But there are some people who just don't get it. You ever just have a person come to your house? They're not a relative. They're a friend of a friend or a friend of a relative or something like that. They're close enough to you where you don't mind them in the house, but usually when they're there with someone else. But some of these people just don't get it. I remember being at a place, at a friend's house where I was staying, and keep in mind, like I said, I always leave earlier, and this time they wanted me to stay and they wouldn't let me go. So I was like, okay, this time this is a close friend of mine. This dude, I literally could sleep at this dude's house. He's cool. I'm going to stay longer. And we're close enough where he would literally go, love you, man, but get out, because I've done that to him. Right? When I had stuff to do and I needed everybody to get out. So it was cool. So we're sitting there talking, and there was a whole bunch of people at his house. It was a barbecue. I'm close enough where I showed up early, helped him set up, did some cooking. He was like, it was my boy. It was cool. You know, other friends of ours, his other homies, they cooked too. We we're friends, but this is like our brother. We're that close, right? So if we stayed, he wouldn't care. In fact, he got, man, why you leave, man? It's like that. So he didn't care if I was there. But I know my friend well enough, and I know he's a nice enough guy where he wouldn't be mean or unfair to someone. I know it, but I know him well enough to know how he thinks. I know his facial expressions, the same way you would know your friend's facial expressions or your brother's facial expressions. I know when he's getting annoyed, just like he knows that I'm getting annoyed. And just like some of my other friends, we have little signals, little facial expressions and looks that we give to each other that are the equivalent of the Iliad and the Odyssey, the equivalent of a telephone book, if you remember what telephone books, the equivalent of a whole gigantic Harry Potter book worth of information in a look, because we're that close as friends and we've known each other that long. And I saw the look on his face, and I saw who he was looking at, and he was looking at a friend of a friend who is close enough to be in his house, but not close enough to be there when the other person leaves, and the person that brought him left. But there was still a lot of people there, so that's not a big deal. But then these other people began to peel away and peel away and peel away. And now there are only a handful of people there, and the handful of people there included his close buddies and maybe a couple other people, whatever. And he's wondering why that guy's still there. And the only thing that was left was just him and his close buddies, which included me, and that guy was still there. And it wasn't like we were having conversations with the guy. He's off in the corner there somewhere. He's looking at a TV by himself, going to the refrigerator and just grabbing stuff out of the refrigerator. Now, during the course of the party, even those of us that know the guy said, hey, man, I don't drink beer. I said, got any more sodas? Yeah, man. And he would say, man, get in there and get a daggone soda. What you asking for? Once a person does that, you're cool, right? And even, like I said, even who I know he would get annoyed if I asked him, do you have any more sodas? Man, what are you asking for? Man. And he would tell me to get off my butt and get one. This guy was just walking in and grabbing stuff out of the refrigerator, right? Now, if it was just the sodas that were for the people in the party, that's fine. But he started to grab. Have you ever put something in your refrigerator and an intelligent person would look in the refrigerator and just know, by being an aware human being, by not being a child, by understanding human nature, you can look in a person's refrigerator and you can just tell that there's some stuff off to the back in the right that is cordoned off, right? The guy's got a jar of mayonnaise next to it, a jar of mustard around it, a jar of ketchup. It's obviously cordoned off, and there's condiments around it that aren't open, because he's basically saying to everybody with some sense not to touch that crap, but this guy touched that crap. It was his beloved wine coolers. He didn't like people touching his wine coolers. I didn't even touch his wine coolers. I would accept the wine cooler when he handed it to me, but I wouldn't touch his wine coolers. And as close as I am and was to that guy at the time, if I took a wine cooler, he'd be like, come on, man. And that's all I'd get. But this guy wasn't a friend of his for 20 years or whatever it was at the time. He didn't even want that guy in there at this point. And he's taking a wine cooler. I don't know what you're thinking. Okay, it's one wine cooler. What's a big deal? It would have been a big deal if it was just one of them. But as we looked at this guy who shouldn't have been there in the first place, sitting in the corner on the TV, hogging the TV all to himself when everybody else is on the other side of the room, we looked at the floor and we realized that there are 3 wine coolers on the ground and one in his hand. Of the 12 left, that were for the owner of the home and the owner of the refrigerator, that was cordoned off in the refrigerator that everybody else, even all the people in the house, knew not to touch. This guy had taken 4 of the 12, and he was heading back to the refrigerator. Oh no. You have friends that are actually friends like that, right? Because you have a circle of friends, right? You have a really core group of friends. Maybe you went to high school with them. Maybe you went to college with them. Maybe you became fast friends 15 years ago and you have so much in common. You have such a connection that you became rock solid friends. Some people, you meet them and you know they're going to be lifelong friends, right? Then you have that next group, but these are people that are cool with, and they come to the house every once in a while. They come to the parties, you meet them someplace, you hang out with them, but they don't come to your house all the time. And then you have that, there's a part where there's an outside of the circle where you're right at friend, and on the other side is I don't know you. And this guy was standing on that line, teetering back and forth, and he was behaving like he was in the core circle, which he wasn't. Ooh. We have those friends. You may even have relatives like that. I don't, but I have people that I knew like that, and I got rid of them very quickly because they don't know when to stop. They don't know that you shouldn't take more than one wine cooler. You shouldn't have taken any wine coolers, but he took 4, and he was heading back to the refrigerator. And I'm not a betting man, but if I was going to put money down, my money would be he's going to go back for another wine cooler. Think about it. 1/3 of the wine coolers that the guy cordoned off for himself were gone, and they were gone because of a person he didn't even want in his house in the first place. Like, really, why is this guy still here? The person who brought you, who will be reprimanded the next time he comes in contact with my friend, I'm sure. That guy, it's like leaving that guy at my friend's house. And it was the other guy's friend too. Leaving that guy in the house with him would be the equivalent of somebody coming in your house. Everybody else took their shoes off and put on the booties. You know, some people don't like shoes in their house, right? And this person walks in, stomps across your floor with some muddy feet, and then goes, you take care of that, and walks out and leaves the mud on the floor. Doesn't even call you back to say, I'm so sorry, I don't know what I was thinking. I will pay to have it cleaned. Oh, heck no, this was not that. This guy was human. Muddy footprints on a white carpet. And I know my friend. And he's not, like I said, he's not the type of guy that's Mr. Confrontational. He's not one of those guys. But he loves his wine coolers, and he doesn't feel like driving 15 minutes to get it again. And the guy was heading towards his wine cooler. He was literally going to go for the 5th wine cooler. Why? And my friend goes, hey, yo, take a soda, man. Leave them wine coolers alone. Oh, okay, I didn't know. You didn't know, really? There are people that just don't get it. There are people that don't get it. There are guys that will flirt with your girlfriend, right? And they're friendly with you. I remember one guy, I might have talked about it on a podcast. I was with this girl, and he wasn't, there was no chance anything was going to happen. But he lived near, he goes to my girlfriend's house, apartment at the time, right? And she's taking out the trash. Now, I just wasn't there. I usually would go over to her apartment, and if she needed anything heavy moved or, I would do it when I was there. And I was only about 15 minutes away. So the trash would have gotten taken out, the heavy stuff. She's taking it out. He comes up, right? And what does he do? He goes, "Oh, man, I'm surprised he won't even help you out, man. He was really a good boyfriend. He'd help you out." He tried to couch it as a joke. I didn't know about it. She told me about it. And he would always have these little digs all the time, right? Smiled in my face, little digs all the time. And at the time, I was a little more passive-aggressive than I am now, because now I'll just walk up to you and go, "Man, shut your punk mouth up. Cut that crap." I'll walk right up to you and tell you. But at the time, I was a little more passive-aggressive, a little more sneaky. Oh, yeah. So when I saw him with his wife, who he was scared of, not physically scared of, but he was a bit of a punk when it comes to his wife, right? So I was talking to my girlfriend and his wife was within earshot. And I wasn't jealous, but I pretended I was. "So why that guy always coming over here taking the trash out? What's he trying to do? He trying to step to you or something?" And she's looking at me like, "What? What?" And I put a smile on my face. And now she's laughing because she thinks I'm joking. And I am joking. But I also want her to hear it. Yeah, I said it. And in me in my 20s, and I was, like I said, I was a little more passive-aggressive. A little more sneaky than I am now. And I said it. Right? And she walks in the house waving that. You know when you joke with your wife or your girlfriend and they wave you off like, "My boyfriend/husband's being wacky again." She waved her hands at me as if to say, "Stop joking," and walked in the house. I, of course, stared at her delicious buttocks, which I would be enjoying momentarily. But I could hear the footsteps downstairs. Oh, yeah. He was outside with his wife. Oh, yeah. Going to come into my girlfriend's house and try to trash me. "Oh, I got something for your punk behind." I could hear her footsteps as they were walking to the car. And as a man who's lived with women and dated women and loves women and pays close attention to any woman that's around him, I know angry footsteps when I hear them. And if you're a married man, lived with a woman, or you're over the age of 26 years old, and you've loved women and been in long-term relationships, you know when your woman, your lady, your wife, the love of your life is angry, whether she says it or not. You can hear the way she's walking. You can tell by the way she's breathing. You can tell by the way she carries her purse in her arm. You can tell by the way she brushes her teeth. And you can tell by every tiny thing. I'm listening to her, and I've heard her walk up and down the steps a million times. But I've also like I said, I know what the angry walk sounds like. And she's got the angry walk. Oh, yeah. She's walking to the car, and she normally walked beside him. Oh, no, she didn't walk beside him. She walked in front of him. Oh, yeah. Snatched the keys out of his hands, opened up the passenger side door, right? She motioned for him to walk around to the other side, and then she slid the keys across the top of his car. Oh, yeah. Have a good time at dinner, Bob. Oh, I know Bob's night was ruined. But you don't come into my girlfriend's house trashing me by the way I took out the trash like I said I would. But he didn't have to do that. All he had to do was go, "Let me help you out and take the trash out." But he didn't get it. He had to stay longer than he would just so he could trash me. And guess what happened, punk? You mess with the bull, you get the horns. And I don't want to be indelicate, but when I would go over to my girlfriend's house and, give her the business so good she thinks it's Christmas, if you understand what I'm saying, we could hear Bob downstairs with his wife. We couldn't actually hear what they were doing because everybody in the apartment building was smart enough to turn up the music. But we also would pay close enough attention to know how long is the music playing, right? But as it turns out, we played music, the long versions. I'm S. Anthony, right? But there was no music coming from Bob's place. Oh, no. No music Monday, no music Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Maybe a little bit of music on Sunday, but not Monday through Saturday. But when I went to visit my girl Monday through Saturday, we played music. Oh, yeah. But he didn't. Why? That's right. It was my fault. Deal with it, sucker. It's great. Let me just reminisce about ruining Bob's week. Yeah, trying to trash me. What you get, punk? Yeah, this was a long time ago, but I still love it. Anyway, so what I was saying was, listen, we have to know not to overstay our welcome. We have to realize that we should mind our own business. We shouldn't take our pain in the buttness. Because that's what it is. Pain in the buttness. That guy at my friend's house, pain in the buttness. Bob, but that's not his real name. Bob running his mouth, trying to trash me in front of my girlfriend at the time. Pain in the buttness. And I never want to be a person that subjects other human beings to pain in the buttness. And I know that if you're intelligent enough and have good enough taste to listen to me, you will not subject other people to pain in the buttness, will you? Will you, people? Of course we won't. Fantastic. It's amazing how all of you in all those different countries sound like me, turning my head slightly to the right of the microphone and speaking in a high voice. It's amazing. Moving on. But I just have one more thing. You know what's not a pain in the butt? Having fantastic listeners. Especially the kind of listeners that will rate and review this podcast and give it 5 stars. And the kind of people who will tell other people about the podcast. And the kind of people who, if they're listening on Spotify, will follow this podcast. And if they're listening on anything else, subscribe to this podcast and come back every time, because you'll know the podcast came out because you subscribed and it'll alert you. You dig? Of course you do. Much love, my family. My podcast family around the world. Much love to you. Thank you for coming back, my friends. We will talk again next time about something else just as weird as this. Much love to you all. Take care.